Hello, everyone, and welcome to Boots, your go-to podcast for all things women's soccer. And today we have a very special guest joining us. Casey's on the case. Casey from her TikTok and Instagram. Everybody, please shout it out for Casey for coming on with us. And we are super thrilled to be talking all things women's soccer, from the recent CONCACAF to upcoming Olympics, and Casey's background in women's soccer and lawyering. So, welcome.
Woo! Welcome,
Let's
Lacers.
get started.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Boots. We are so happy today because we have a special guest, Casey Hultin from Casey's on the Case, TikTok and Instagram. And she's also been working with ESPN women's content creators and Adidas, potentially. You're going to have to tell us more about that. And I feel like we're kind of in the presence of a celebrity today. I've been really nervous about having you on the podcast because I was like, oh my God, Casey's on the Case is going to be on our podcast today. And all day I've just been so amped about it because I've been following your content, loving your content for such a long time. And as you know, women's soccer fans, we are just thrilled that you're joining us today. So welcome, Casey.
Well, thank you. I'm thrilled to be here. I'm celebrity guest. I'm like, oh gosh, that's a lot to live up to, but I'll do my best. But yeah, I'm just a lady with a TikTok. That's just kind of always the vibe. Whenever people take things personally, I'm like, I'm literally just in my living room half the time or wherever I am. Like, it really ain't that deep. But yeah, thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Yay! Okay, so yeah, I am just so excited because we all love your content. We have been following your content for so long, and I can't wait to hear about what took you to from lawyer to content creator and all of those things. And so we're really excited to get to hear your story and talk about soccer today. Love it.
Yeah, cool.
So first things first, we're just gonna kind of catch up and what have we all been up to? Katie especially, it has been doing crazy things. So I would love to hear, Katie, what have you been up to?
Okay, so I when did we last speak? Was it like a month ago?
Yeah.
It was a long time. So I was just back from Australia. So my best friend, Billy, he was getting married out in Australia. So we live in the UK, and he met his husband now. He met him in the UK. They both live in London, but he is from Australia. So they decided to go all the way to the other side of the world and get married. And Billy invited all of his close friends and stuff. So that's where I've been the last 2 weeks, down in Sydney. And then the wedding was like 5 hours south on this really pretty Australian white sand beach, blue waters. And it was just super casual, like not super formal, and just really nice. Like a different kind of wedding to like a Scottish wedding. So it was really good fun.
Were you able to meet anyone cool while you were there?
I did meet some hot celebs. So randomly, and it's someone that Billy and myself have liked for a long time and I've known Billy Casey since I was like 3 years old. And it turned out, I remember when Billy started dating Nick, he was like, oh, did I tell you like his best friend is Rebel Wilson? And I was like, what? I was like, you did not tell me this. And this was like a few months. So Billy obviously like didn't want to trust me with that information. And then he was like, yeah, they'd like chat on WhatsApp, like you and I chat on WhatsApp. And I was like, no way. And I remember he had to go out and meet her for dinner in London, and they got papped. And Billy wasn't in the picture, but Nick was when they were leaving the restaurant. Billy, like, you couldn't see him. But it was like Rebel Wilson eating out with 3 strange men, like unidentified males. So she was at the wedding. So she was Nick's witness. And so I was Billy's witness. So we had to sign the certificate together, and she did a reading and I did a reading, but they didn't tell me like Rebel was going to do a reading and I had to go after her. And I was like, I was giving him like the evils walking up the aisle to do, and I was like, why did you put me first? Like, how do I follow Rebel Wilson reading a Kylie song? Like, here I go. So, but yeah, she sat next to me at dinner. Super cool, like down to earth, really nice. Obviously knows how to do small talk, like, but she was just like quite a normal person. Actually, quite refreshing.
That's awesome.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
So cool.
So she's super cool. So I'm going to have to like, I didn't tell her about the podcast either. I was like, what a failure. So I'm going to like, she's going to be in Edinburgh when I'm in Edinburgh for a work conference. So I'm going to have to, and she's asking us for restaurant recommendations. So I'll have to get Billy to tell her, because Billy listens to the podcast, about our podcast, to see if she'll like, because she likes women's sports. So see if she can give us a share.
That's cool.
That
Yeah.
is so cool.
So that's my like highlight of my holiday.
I know, Katie. I asked you to go first, and similar to your wedding situation. I'm like, how do I talk about my life now? Because I haven't done anything exciting at all. Kylie and I we are going to Utah this weekend, and
Nice.
we're going skiing and snowboarding. So wish us luck, really, especially me, because I am an anxious skier. I look down the mountain and I just go, how do I get down? And then I get down and I'm like, why would I do that again? But our friends, they love it. We're going. We're doing it.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited. It's going to be Christina's first time trying snowboarding, so it's going to be something. Yeah. She has asked if she needs to get like wrist guards and stuff like that, or like padded like bottoms or anything like that, just to like help with her falls. I'm like, you're going to be fine. You don't need wrist guards, but you will fall a lot. Yeah. And we've watched a couple like beginner snowboarder videos to hopefully get her like ready for it, but we'll see how it goes. I'm excited. Yeah.
I can't wait to find out how that went.
Yeah.
Yeah, that will
You need
be
to
interesting.
Send me some videos. That's cool. I've never snowboarded, so that's super cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So Casey, Christina is my girlfriend, and she was born and raised in Houston. Never really experienced snow or any kind of really cold weather until like she came home with me to Wyoming a couple times for Christmas, and so like this is her first like big snowboarding trip or anything like that. So we'll see how it goes. Yeah.
Well, fingers crossed. The first and only time I went snowboarding, I was also on a couple's ski adventure, and they paired me up with the other girlfriend who she had gone like twice, so they figured we'd be a good match, except for, I don't know what she did the first two times she went, because like I straight lost her on the buddy slope, and I'm not like somebody with a great natural aptitude for the snow sports, so I don't know where she went, but I waited at the bottom for like an hour and a half, and I'm thinking like, oh gosh, she must have dusted me and just been gone. And no, it turned out she's like stuck up there, had to call her boyfriend. It was like a whole thing. So then they felt bad, and they were like, well, you did so well on the beginner slope. Mind you, doing well was I didn't get trapped up there for 90 minutes. And then they were like, just come on this intermediate one. And like, no, I was not. I ended up just going like, I don't know what the term is, but you literally have like both feet forward, where you're basically just like braking the whole time. So it can't really be like a worse journey than that. I think you'll be good.
Yeah. I will report back next week.
Yes, we'll let you know how we do. Hopefully we're fine. That's what we hope. Casey, what have you been up to?
Let's see. It's been a lot of travel. So I was just in Phoenix for spring training. I'm not a baseball girly. It's not my thing, but some coworkers and friends of mine are big into it. My husband's big into it, so we went for a little bit. It was fun. It's kind of like a weird vibe. It's like none of these things are real, but people seem to care a lot still. So that was cool. Phoenix, like the food scene there is getting much better, so ate some really good stuff. That was great. And then this weekend, I'm actually heading out to Kansas City, where I'll be at their inaugural game in their new stadium. So that's
Nice.
gonna be really cool against Portland.
That's awesome.
Amazing. So cool.
Exciting.
Love
Yeah,
it.
I'm excited, but I'm like trying to figure out. It's like some of the like I don't know if we can edit this in post if I can't say this, but we'll see. But like some of the reporting on this has like been not super favorable about the stadium itself.
Right.
Obviously the parking I know I've talked about on my TikTok before, but now I'm reading like the seat width is not particularly size inclusive. Like there's just a lot of like interesting things. So I'm kind of curious what the experience is going to be and how much I'm going to be allowed to share about that. But because I mean I don't really mince words very often. So if I get there and I'm like, I am a standard size person and I'm not fitting in the seat, like I'm going to say that. So anyway, I'm very curious, excited, but like a little skeptical if I'm being honest, just given the way the rollout's gone.
Yeah.
That is so interesting. Oh my gosh. I can't wait to hear what your thoughts are afterward. Hopefully it's good because I mean, you would want the first women's like sports stadium and for women's soccer to be a good experience, right? And that's something like Angel City has been really good at, is creating a really good experience for the fans, and that's how you're kind of getting people to go. And so that's kind of what you would hope Kansas City does. And Kylie and I talked about that on our last episode with CONCACAF here in Houston, which was rough. So, yeah, that's hopefully, I mean, I'm hoping it goes well, but that's unfortunate to hear that there might be bumpy roads ahead for it.
Yeah, but fingers crossed. I'm sure it'll be great either way. It just will be, I'm gonna be looking to see how we feel about these things.
Love it. So Casey, now we're gonna kind of deep dive into you. How did you get into women's soccer? What's your background with women's soccer, and what brought you onto TikTok?
Sure. So, I think like most children of my like vintage, I, started playing AYSO like everybody else, and you like hope you get the pink jersey, right? You really want the pink jersey. That was always the hope, was to be that team. So I played that for a couple seasons. Pretty much as soon as I was old enough to play for a club team here, I did. I'm Swedish American. I have a Swedish dad who grew up playing. So it was a pretty natural fit. I liked it. And, the club tryout, I think it was like 8 or so. So I did that. I played for, various, different clubs in my area. Kind of went on the more traditional US, you're in a club team, you do ODP, like that kind of stuff path. And then when I was 15, I moved to Sweden and I played over there. So they have like basically like if they think you have like national team potential around that age, they move you all into a different high school. And so you play there, you get extra training, extra support, and you play with, teams in their league. So I did that for a year. It was fantastic, like super awesome. And you live on your own too. That's kind of the other things. People are like, oh, well, did your whole family go? And I'm like, no, man, I was 15 years old in the house with 3 other 15-year-olds. Like that was an interesting life experience. And I didn't know how to make food. So like I literally, the first 3 months I was there, pretty sure I like just made myself butter sketty. Because that was all I knew how to make. I called my mom one time, like from Sweden, and was like, I don't know how to boil water. So yeah, it was interesting, but I had a great time. I did that. I came home. I like promptly got mono. Like I got mono like 3 months into coming home, and it was my junior year of high school. A lot of weird like thoughts about whether I should have stayed in Sweden or not. But basically, I had been told if I stayed any longer than a year, I was going to have a really hard time transferring credits and going into an American college. So if I stayed any longer than a year, I pretty much needed to be set on getting my college education in Sweden. So I came back, got mono, lost like 30 pounds from mono, which was rough because I spent like a whole year just gaining muscle, and kind of felt like, okay, is there anything else I'm interested in doing? Because at the time, like one of the best. Sorry, this is like very long-winded, so please cut me
Awesome.
off if I'm like
This is
completely boring
awesome.
you. But I grew up in the Bay Area, and one of the coolest things about the Bay Area is it has been kind of a smaller hotbed for women's soccer. A lot of professional players stay here after they're done. So I kind of got to see like what does this life look like if you go play professionally, to the extent that that was an option at the time because this is like 2006. And I'm watching them like coach youth soccer clinics and stuff, and that's kind of it. There's not really anything else viable. So I looked at it and I'm like, let's see if there's like something else I could see myself doing. And then that's when I found mock trial, and I was like, oh, cool! It feels like a sport, but they'll pay you to do it. So then I decided to become a lawyer,
Wow.
and that was pretty much it. Like I played for another couple of years, but not at a serious level. And then I always kept following it. I had, a lot of friends that went on and played at like really awesome collegiate programs. And, I didn't really feel like I ever made the wrong decision because I watched all of them do that for 4 years. And then at the end go, shoot, what on earth am I going to do with my life? And have to find something else new. So I was kind of like, ha, beat y'all to that. And now I'm like sad, but it's been that. And I just kind of, I don't know, I started posting on TikTok. Let's see, I really started posting more about women's soccer like June of 2023, so I'm pretty recent. I'd been posting a little bit about the U.S. men's national team, and was gaining some traction there. And I kind of thought, let's like just post about the women's team and see how that goes. And then it was like, oh my gosh, people want to talk about this. This is so exciting. This is much more fun. I don't want to talk about men if I can avoid it. So, like, nobody needs them. We don't have to do this. And then I just kept going through the World Cup, and then I kind of thought, like, okay, is this going to keep going because it's a World Cup? But I also figured, I'm in the U.S. The fact that anybody is watching this World Cup in the middle of the night, it's really the first time we've had to deal with a World Cup being in the middle of the night, and people are here, so I think they're still going to be here for, the rest of it, and they have been. Obviously, like, not to the same degree as when U.S. women's national team plays. Like that's like people come flooding in to talk about that. But it's been really cool. So it's yeah, I don't know. It's been good. This has been like such a delight because I think there's always been a part of me that's been like a little bit bitter about giving up playing like the way I did, and then seeing people be able to make it and actually get to go play professionally. But now I'm like, well, hold up. If this is really viable for folks to get to play professionally, all the other industries around sports are also viable on the women's side. So we can have podcasts about it. We can talk about it. We can, all of these other things that we're not necessarily, foreseen either. Those are all things we can do. So I don't know. I'm just seeing where this takes me. So, people keep inviting me on stuff. I'm like, sure, why not?
That is so cool. That's such a cool story. What's your experience like as a lawyer? How long have you been doing it? Does it translate at all with your ability to speak on things like on TikTok?
Yeah, so I've been practicing now. I'm coming up on 10 years, so it's been a minute. Which every time I say that, I'm like, oh wow, this is like I still feel very new to this profession, but I'm like decently established at this point. So I specialize in mostly jury trials. So a lot of my job there is explaining things to people, hopefully as simply and as clearly as I can. And I think that that is a very similar skill set to doing the TikTok videos. It's also a lot of like really just synthesizing information as quickly as I can to then get it out. People are like, how are you watching all this? How are you reading all this? And I'm like, I don't really know. This is just kind of the speed I go at because I ain't got time. But yeah, it's been a weird amount of crossover. But I think if I didn't have the other skill set, I'm not sure how well I'd do at this. And parts of this too have been helpful because like I don't think you can post the volume of content I post if you're going to be a perfectionist about it. And that's really helpful to let go in the courtroom too, because things don't have to be perfect there. We can fix them. So it's been good, I think, for both.
That is so cool. So interesting.
And you have to like come up with themes or talk a lot while you're being a lawyer, right? And so like then you have to just do that in front of the camera for the TikToks and everything. And creating your content, right?
Yeah. So it's a lot of the same. It's a lot of like trying to figure out like what things are useful to talk about.
Yeah.
How are we going to present things? Like what are we, the other one that's like really, I go live a decent amount, and that's a really similar skill set because like you cannot flinch answering questions in front of a judge or everybody's going to smell it on you. So that's very easy for me. People are like, oh, like how are you answering all this? I'm like, again, I don't know. All I know is we got to sound decisive.
Wow, that's so cool.
Love that. That's so cool that skill kind of, I don't know, supports you in TikTok. And you've got quite a big following now. And like you said, you haven't been a content creator for as long as maybe other people, but you've gotten so many followers, gained so much traction. And it's kind of like us doing the podcast. It's doesn't really seem like work sometimes because it's stuff that you like to talk about already. We're already like a group who, when we would get together to get coffee, when we'd get together to eat food, we're going to be talking about women's soccer anyways. Is that kind of like the same vibe for you with TikTok and content creation?
Yeah, I mean, if I wasn't making the TikToks, I would be just like blowing up my various group chats about whatever it is. And I still do that to some extent, but it's much nicer now because like I think a lot of my friends were kind of following like women's soccer to be polite because they mainly follow men's soccer. And I'm like, we got to talk about what's going on with Arsenal women. And they're like, oh, okay, kind of. But now I have like an actual place to talk about it, which is good as opposed to like polite interest. Although my dad is now like fully watching Arsenal women, which is really exciting. And he's like very into the style of play. So that's good. I get like the same volume of text from him about Arsenal women as I, do the men's team. So we're getting there, and it's definitely growing. But yeah, it was a lot of me kind of talking into the void on group chats. So
another thing is because and this is probably happens with anyone who, as long as they get bigger, as long as they grow. How do you deal with like negative comments, backlash, like things like that on TikTok, Instagram? I know we kind of briefly talked about it recently too, like you and I back and forth, because it's probably so frustrating because, when you're saying the right things, what I would consider right, and you're getting so much backlash. And this is something we've actually talked about on the podcast before, with like sexist comments and things like that, about having a podcast about women's sports and women's soccer. And, it really fired me up like about a month ago when I kind of faced that. How do you deal with it? What do you do? And do you have like tips for other content creators who might get bigger and who will face these types of things?
Yeah, so for me, my response varies a little bit depending on what the feedback is and what it is I'm getting. Like, obviously, like this week, I've had quite a few comments with the Sam Kerr situation. And like, okay, if you want to come fight with me about what racism is, like, I am not entertaining your point of view on this. Like, these people are not worth my time. So it's more like I'm annoyed for two reasons in that circumstance. One, I'll be just like completely candid here. I filmed that video in my, like literally in my bathroom, like in 40 seconds. And I was so mad because TikTok only pays me on videos that are over a minute. So this thing is going crazy on engagement, and I'm not seeing $1 because I was too lazy to make this thing over a minute. I'll tell you my reaction normally is when I get like a video, like I've had them before, during the World Cup when like we were talking about Rapinoe, and like every right winger who's never watched a sport in their life has come out to, let us know about the scary lesbian lady. So, but I made $200 on that video. So you know what? Like, I don't care. Go off, King. Like, that's fine. Your engagement is just driving more views. And it's, and then you kind of start thinking about like the bullying elements of it and what other people face online. But I just don't think that they're on there looking at it. I can't imagine, she is, or that it's getting to her at this point. So I try to, I guess on those ones, they're not as hard for me. It's just really like, how much of my day do I waste messing with them? Because it's fun. It's fun, like, because I can sit there all day and just say random stuff to people. It doesn't take me long at all. And I don't think about it again. Like, I've never thought about these people ever again. So that's kind of thing one. Thing two, I do try to avoid doing it because I don't know, Trista, if we DM'd about this a little bit, maybe not, but so I had two like ones where it's as you get bigger, you have to be a little bit more conscious of punching down too, which is a thing that I'm worried about. But online, like I can't tell who anybody is. And one time I like came for this guy, like skating video, and he's 13.
Oh no.
Teenager in Sweden. And I'm like, oh my God, this is so embarrassing. Like, so you just don't know. And I try to always remind myself, like, if I can go and look and see that they have like a sufficient number of their own followers, or like I can tell they're like an actual adult, it's one thing. But like the idea that I'm sitting here feuding with like a teenager really scares me. So keep that in mind as unsolicited advice, other item. And then I don't know, sometimes I start to, if I get one where people disagree with me and it's, not one where I'm like, this is a literal human rights issue, I'm not entertaining your point of view on it. If it's one where like, maybe I did get it wrong. Okay, well, maybe I did get it wrong. And that's something that I have to sit with too, because ultimately, like, not everyone's going to agree with your take. Like, things are gonna, we can agree, we can disagree, but like, I look at people who are like way bigger than me in this industry, or who are like, do broadcasting professionally, and like that's just kind of the game. Like you're gonna, if you don't have hot takes or opinions, like what are you putting out there? Really. And that's not to say that you should like intentionally come with like an Alexi Lawless-esque trash take. But like, if you don't put yourself out there for people to disagree with you, I'm not really sure what worth you're bringing to the space. So I try to remind myself of that when it gets hard, when I'm like, oh, people are disagreeing and these points are kind of valid, and the people pleaser in me like really wants to walk them all back. Like, if you don't think there was a part of me when the Alex Morgan video a few weeks ago, when there were people being like, you're too hard on her, and I'm like, oh God, maybe I was too hard on her. And then I look back at it again and again, and I'm like, I don't know, man. I think I was right. And like, it's okay, we can disagree, but like, I really think I was right. So I don't know. I hope that kind of helps in some way. But if they're trash people, what do you care? That's always going to be the best thing to come back to. Although one of them, a couple of them did tell me my mustache was stealing the show one time, and I was like, it probably is time to go back to my esthetician. I'm probably due for a facial. With this many of this comment, that might be the case. So thank you to them for just letting me know. Doing a buddy a solid.
No. That's hilarious. Oh my gosh. And also, like, that's such good insight too. And that's something, when you're putting content out there, when you're putting yourself out there, it is kind of vulnerable. Like you're putting yourself in a vulnerable space, because maybe not everybody knows your opinions on things, your thoughts on things, and they might view you differently or see you differently. And as like I've gotten older, and as I have felt more solid in myself, it's really nice to just be like, yeah, this is what I think. Yeah, these are my opinions and thoughts, and I don't really care like what you think about it, because I'm solid in what my beliefs are, what my values are, and I'm gonna put it out there. And because like I'm supporting the other people who also deserve to feel supported in these other spaces and things that I believe and value, and I don't really need to protect anybody else like who disagrees, which is kind of hard to do, but also freeing, I think.
Yeah, and you can't please everybody. It's just not gonna happen. And if you are, again, I don't know what you're putting out there. Like, unless you're literally only talking about like cheese pizza or something, and even then, I'm sure somebody's gonna have a disagreeing opinion with you. So
100%. So I love your Arsenal jersey. We've got ours. Katie gave us these. Kylie's in her Houston jersey though. What are some of the teams that you support? Like I kind of know this due to your content, but just tell our listeners, what are some of the teams that you support in the WSL, in the NWSL, and why are you kind of a fan of those teams?
Sure. So I am like pretty much a lifelong Arsenal supporter. My dad is an Arsenal supporter, so I grew up supporting Arsenal. That is my team. So within NWSL, I am an ACFC supporter. I lived in Los Angeles for about 10 years. So and they were there when came in right as I was leaving. So they got my love, and now we have Bay FC, and I'm living in the Bay Area, and people are like, oh, aren't you going to support them? And I will tell you, I might have considered it if they had been based closer to where I am, but my San Jose hate is so strong. I will not be hauling to games over there. And it's also just like a very certain vibe of the Bay Area that's not really my vibe. I'm a San Jose Sharks fan for hockey, so I have some, it's not a full out ban on San Jose, but it's just not my vibe. So those are my teams there. I support Oakland Roots within USL. MLS, I support LAFC. Not the Galaxy. Nobody mixed that up. I've had somebody mix that up, and I was like, no. I support a team in LA, not in Carson. So there's that. And then non-soccer, just because it's my whole blood. I bleed silver and black. I am a diehard Raiders fan. It is a interesting existence, but I am absolutely diehard. So that's my team.
Cool. Who are some of your favorite players?
So I always have to disclose, it's like, I know I have an unfair bias when it comes to Katie McCabe. I just love that woman. I think she's so entertaining. Like the work rate, just the bangers. I mean, like all of it is so good. And she can do really no wrong. Like when she does a thing that I would criticize any other player for, I'm like, it's Katie. She didn't really do that. Like it's Jill. So she is an absolute favorite of mine. She's up there for me. Of my Scandies, of course, big Stina supporter. I love her. I think what she can do is so special with her off the ball movement. So love watching her play. Let's see. I mean, we all know I'm a Germa stan as well. I'm like, she can't do anything wrong, man.
She can't.
This center back is great. She's fantastic. On the men's side, I'm a big Olivier Giroud fan for multiple reasons. I have eyes, so there's that. Pretty much like anyone on the Arsenal men's team, I'm a massive fan of. I mean, Declan Rice has been a revelation this season. He's been super fun to watch. Kai Havertz is growing on me, mainly because I really love his song. Like I like anytime I get to sing "Waka Waka" by Shakira in some fashion, I'm thrilled. That's always great. I'm trying to think. I'm always like, I get really hesitant to get too attached to players because I just feel like I'm cursed and I get a kit with a player's name on it and like they will get injured or they will get traded or anything like that. It's just so I try not to get too attached to anybody because I just don't like to have my heart broken. But it happens.
I'm a big Katie McCabe fan as well. I think her goal in the World Cup was probably one of my favorite goals in the World Cup. It was just so cool to see her score off a corner like that. It was amazing. So
no, that was such a fun one too. I'm bummed they didn't get to go a little bit further, and I'm optimistic to see. I think Euros 2025 is going to be really fun to get to see a little more from Ireland.
Seriously, that group that they got drawn into is kind of interesting. I think. I don't know what the group. Yeah.
Oh, no, sorry. Yeah, it would be a group of death at the tournament, and it's the qualifier.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Yeah, that's wild and kind of scary. Talking about, so we're recording this the Monday after the CONCACAF finals for our listeners. And Kylie and I were able to go to the group that was in Houston, and we went to all of the games, and we had a great time. We did our critiques already on the previous podcast episode with some of the stadium things, but nonetheless, it was an amazing experience. And before you got on, Casey, Katie was kind of giving us a hard time because she thought we'd be more confident when we interacted with the players. And we were like, no, we were so weird and awkward. But we hope that we, learned something about how to, interact. And Katie, she, is now best friends with Rebel Wilson. And we barely got to even say hi to the players without being weird. Let's talk about our thoughts on the CONCACAF final. I mean, the semifinal was absolutely wild. I don't really, and Kylie and I talked about this as well, that semifinal game against Canada, and Kylie and I watched Canada play live in all of the group stages, we were big fans of Canada. They played phenomenally. They were like, it was beautiful soccer. So we were really excited for them to play the US, especially coming off of them having that sassy quarterfinal with Colombia. And we were like really disappointed in the field. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was unacceptable. Let's like just call it what it is. I don't think that semifinal should have gone forward the way it is. I have, I CONCACAF is a mess. It was good typicity for CONCACAF, which we do appreciate. But it shouldn't have gone forward. It wasn't safe for the players who are like a week out of NWSL preseason, most of them. CONCACAF should have called it. I don't know why they put it back on the ref. From a spectator standpoint, bummer to watch it. The other thing I'm just going to flag here, and I don't know how much of this is San Diego and Snapdragon's fault, because like if you've been to San Diego in the rain before, they get like less than a quarter of an inch and you're toast. You're not going anywhere. The roads flood. It's bad. But this is now, one of a string of poor showings at that stadium. So, because you look at, NWSL semifinals where they still had all the stuff on the, yeah, it was like, why is San Diego State? Who are they? Who's San Diego State? I don't know them. And then like they cut it down too much, like later, instead of like trying to paint over. It was just bizarre. So in the final, there were like little bald patches. It was just bad. So I don't know what's happening over there. I have to wonder why we're going to continue to give this particular stadium bigger games when they have not thus far shown that they are super equipped for them. That all being said, I share your disappointment that we didn't get to see US and Canada actually go all out. I think that there were quite a few players on Canada I was really excited to see challenge our backline. And for me, this whole tournament has been, as much as it's super fun to have an inaugural Gold Cup, it's really been about seeing what we can put together for the Olympics and testing ourselves in different ways. So to kind of essentially lose an at bat is kind of how I look at it. It was a bummer. So yeah, that was kind of the semifinal.
Yep. I would agree. I think Kylie and I were kind of talking about it as well, and we were like, it was kind of a best case scenario to go into overtime when it was kind of drying up a little bit, so that it seemed a little bit more fair at least, and then to end in a shootout seemed pretty right because like how else was that game going to be seemingly fair, I guess, at the end of the day with what those conditions looked like. But I think they have the potential to play again in the She Believes Cup coming up. So that will be really interesting to watch. And I would love to see them play in like dry conditions and not like half water polo conditions and see what that looks like.
She Believes Cup, that's over in Atlanta, right? Parts of the games are going to be?
First game's in Atlanta, the second's in Columbus. So
okay.
I don't know, in the Midwest, the weather in April, it could be anything. We have no idea. So is Columbus really the Midwest at that point? I'm sorry, this is my coastal bias. Would we still consider Ohio to be the Midwest?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Originally, Kylie and I are from Wyoming, and so, like, well, I don't know. Yeah, I think so.
And then you've got Katie from Scotland, so
yeah, Katie's just help you.
Yeah, I don't know. But I didn't actually, so I didn't see the semi-final, but I saw like the traction on Instagram and that about the pitch conditions. And interestingly, Scotland men's team played in a Euro qualifier game end of last year at our national stadium, and our pitch wasn't nearly as bad as the one the US women's team were playing on, but they actually stopped the game 20 minutes in, and they actually had ground staff sweep the pitch for 20 minutes, and we actually thought the game was going to get called off, but Scotland were winning 2-0 at the time, and we all we wanted the game. But I think it was Serbia we were playing were refusing to go back out. Like, they did not want to play on that pitch, and they were trying to use the pitch as an excuse, but the ground staff, 25 minutes, sweeped it, and then they went back out and played. It still was quite waterlogged. Like, I thought, wow, that's not really a great pitch, but it was nothing so when I saw, like, the pictures and the videos, I was like, that is shocking. Like, they should have stopped that and at least tried to even... But the rain was still falling, right? Because when the rain stopped in the Scotland game, that's when they decided, okay, we can try and clear this pitch. So, like, stop the game and clear it, right, and do something. But did the rain ever stop whilst they played? No.
Kind of.
I think it
Lighter,
did.
I think, in the second half.
Yeah, more towards the second half. I think it might have.
But they didn't ever go out and like sweep it, like.
I think they did at halftime, kind of, but like.
Okay. But did they not extend the halftime to take more effort to sweep it? No. Yeah, that's really bad. That's what annoys me, right? Like, they shouldn't have had to play on that, because like you were saying, Canada and the US, it would have been a really great like matchup to see for Olympics, right? A test, because of what happened at the World Cup as well, to see like where you are and what you need to work on. But you didn't really get to get anything probably from it.
Nope, it was so bad. It was so bad. Kylie and I had predictions on who was going to win the final. Well, I guess, yeah, and what the score was going to be. And Sam Ewis had predicted on her, I think, podcast, or maybe just a couple clips within who she was with. But she predicted a 2-1 with the U.S., and we kind of agreed with that. We thought that was probably going to be the outcome. So I think it's interesting. We were 1-0. I thought our back line did a great job with holding Brazil off. And even though they had a couple of chances, they didn't really have any chances on goal. Like, we didn't test Alyssa Nair, like, at all. And so that was cool to see.
Yeah. No real chances inside the box. Maybe just close to that one, close to the end of the game where Kruger headed it out of the box, but I don't think there were too many chances inside the box, which was kind of good.
Yeah. And so with our lineup, we also had Crystal Dunn on instead of Neiswanger, which we were kind of interested about. And we were like, okay, well, it makes sense a little bit to see, because Crystal has had like a lot more time of like off in terms to rest. We were kind of shocked to see Jaden Shaw not on the starting lineup. Casey, did you have any thoughts on that lineup going into it?
I was confused by the Shaw decision as well. The only thing I could really think of was that there was, you wanted to see Lavelle start, test something out differently. But I think what was really telling throughout this tournament, and a little bit concerning, frankly, is that whenever we had these moments where we got unsure about, who we were facing up, and we wanted to like kind of go with like the safer option was always reverting back to the veterans. And I don't know that that's the safer bet. I understand Dunn for Neiswanger here. I think Neiswanger, relatively recently is playing defense, and you can see it. There are just little things, little tiny things in her 1v1 and with her positioning in the back line that she's just not quite there yet. So a little more time. I mean, ceiling is immense. So I, think she will be great, but I can understand why against a team like Brazil, you're like, you're going to have a really, really bad time actually if you do any of what we saw you do last game. So I can see that, right? But Shaw, who has, obviously won the golden ball for the tournament, deservedly so. Why would you not go with her? And especially against, a Brazil backline that, if you've watched any of their tape, is suspect, especially to runners in from behind. Shaw has really great instincts on when to provide that. So I don't understand why we went with that. And I also don't know why, if it really was about getting Lavelle on the pitch, like, why do we not have the courage to take Lindsay off sometimes? Because that's really what the trade-off is, and we don't seem to be willing to do it, and I don't get it.
Point.
Yep. And I'm a Lindsay Horan stan. Like, I love her. She kind of like Katie McCabe. She can do no wrong for me. But we did see her, I think, play all 90 minutes every single game. And so obviously that's also going to take a little bit of a toll. And I thought Corbin Albert had a really incredible showing. Like, I thought she did really, really well. So I think that was nice to see. I think, though, that she has a lot of growth and like can work on, I think, cohesion within the team. But yeah, no, that's a fair point. I don't know why that had to be the case, that Lindsay Horan was on for the entirety of the game. Also, something Kylie and I talked about was they need to have maybe a different person that they target on for heading the ball in on corner kicks or set pieces. Like we gotta. I mean, Trinity Rodman's tall. Like the Shaw, she can head the ball. Like why are we always targeting her?
Tierna's like 6 feet tall, man. I don't
Seriously.
understand. Like, what are we? I get it when it's like, obviously you don't want your center back to like make an aggressive run up to like be there for a cross in, right? But like on a corner, like I haven't seen her do anything yet. So it's, I don't know, but you're right. She seems to be kind of our only aerial threat right now, and I don't understand it.
Yeah, I mean, it was successful, but at the same time, we're just kind of like, oh, I think there needs to be like a couple other targets to hit there because I mean, if you're watching any of the tournament as opposing players who are coming against the U.S., it's get on Lindsay Horan during set pieces and crosses, and like you're going to shut that game plan down. So yeah, that was kind of interesting, I think. What are your thoughts on Emma Hayes and how do you think she'll impact this team?
Yeah, so I'm really curious, and I'd love to know, the exact extent of her input here, because I've always been in the mindset that she has quite a bit of say in roster selection. She has quite a bit of say in starting lineups. Obviously, I don't think she's doing in-game changes because she can't. But Emma Hayes, if you follow her at Chelsea, like Emma Hayes doesn't have a set lineup. Emma Hayes doesn't have a set formation. Like she is constantly tinkering based on who she's going up against. And we've seen minimal of that here. So I have to then assume that her hands are off of it a little bit, or she's decided, okay, like that's not something that's really realistic for me to be doing right now while I'm away. We have to kind of have a base thing that we're playing and, maybe some small changes within that, but we have to have kind of a base game plan. So with that whole understanding, assuming I'm not just like completely misreading, like I don't know if US Soccer said you can come, but it has to be a 4-3-3. I don't know if that's the case. I think we'll see. But I have to imagine once she actually gets here and can really dig in, we're going to see some interesting stuff. I would hope. But she's also on, if we aren't seeing it already, she's on a very short clock when she actually gets here. So how risky are you going to be? Trying to roll out a 3-back, trying to just, I would love to see 2 players actually playing up top central and not whatever was kind of happening last night, because I don't think that was the intention for Lindsay Horan to essentially be a second forward. I don't think that was the intention at all. I think it was just a, not really well executed high press. But, I'd like to see us do that. I would give me Shaw and Morgan centrally like that. Give me Rodman and Shaw central. I mean, you can give me there's so many other combinations there that would be really fun, and I think Emma Hayes will bring that out. But yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to temper my excitement on what it's going to be. I think long term she's going to be fantastic. It's just, how much are we really going to get this Olympics? I don't know.
I was cracking up at your TikToks last night when you were like, they announced the lineup and people were like, oh, is it a 4-4-2? And you're like, no, it's not. Guys, don't get excited. This is not a 4-4.
I don't understand why I have to even argue about this. Like, it's like very intelligent people I'm seeing on like Twitter or other places, like respected journalists within women's soccer. Like it's going to be a 4-4-2. And I'm like, have we watched this team at all this tournament? Like, it's absolutely not going to be a 4-4-2. No. Like, what are we doing?
No, that was making me laugh. I was like, no, it's not. But that would be nice. I think that would be really interesting. But no.
But it wasn't. That was not. No, this team is like ride or die 4-3-3, or call it a 4-2-1-3 if you want. Or you could even, I think at times last night there were moments when it looked very 4-5-1. That's all the same lineup ultimately. It's just people shifting. So yeah, but they have not varied at all from that. They are very loyal to this particular setup right now.
What teams do you have eyes on for the Olympics, and how do you think that the U.S. team, how do you think they'll do coming into the summer?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is Spain's to lose at this point. I think Spain just looks too good. So if Spain shows up and plays even at like half speed, Spain's going to win this thing. I think they just look good. It's an especially, I think, tough match. I think that there's things about a matchup between Spain and the U.S. that would be very intriguing to me. But right now, I just think the U.S. would struggle with their midfield. So they're for sure, I think they're the front runner. I don't think there's really any disagreement there. I'd like to see what France can bring. I think France is intriguing as the home team. I want Wendy to win something. I just want this for Wendy. See, that's another play. I love Wendy. I say like, no Wendy, no party. Like, I love Wendy Renard, man. Let her do everything. She's great. I want to see her win it. And then, you never count out Japan. I haven't gotten to watch too much Japan, recently. I got to go back and watch their matches against North Korea, which I read a long form about North Korea and their women's soccer situation because I was not familiar. It's very interesting. We'll see how long they can keep doing what they've been doing, which is basically like training completely in isolation because their players don't play in any other leagues. And then they still somehow show up to these tournaments and have like a pretty good showing. But nobody's really sure what happens to the players after they lose like they did this time. So, it's interesting, but I don't think you can keep up on the global stage without, having your players play elsewhere. So anyway, that was a really nice little side journey we went on there about North Korea. But yeah, Japan I'm excited about.
I'm excited too. And they also will be in the She Believes Cup. So we'll be able to kind of get, a temperature check on how they'll do in the Olympics and what that looks like. Casey, do you have anything big coming up, like content creation wise, or anything that you're excited about that our listeners or anybody should be looking forward to?
So I have this weekend. I have the NWSL opener at Kansas City, which is great. I'm super excited for that. That'll be good content wise. And then I'm going to Europe in May, and I'm still trying to figure out what is exactly happening. I was really excited. I thought if Arsenal had made it, I was going to go to the FA Cup final for the women because it was going to be like during the time I'm there. But obviously we're not in it. So now I'm like, and the way that things are shaking out, I'm like, I want to watch Chelsea and Man United play. Absolutely not. Not a chance. I'm not going to that. But it turns out that and I'm going to Sweden, I have tickets to see Taylor Swift. So that's not really related to this, but it was much easier to just go to Sweden than see her there. So, I'm doing that. But while I'm there, it is actually the U17 Euros. So, I'm going to hopefully get to watch some of that, which is exciting. When I found that out, I was like, okay, is this kind of weird to show us like the U17 Euros? But like, let's see the future talent. Let's go watch the teenagers kick it around. Let's see what happens. So I think that'll be kind of cool, and I'll probably check out a little Damallsvenskan while I'm there, and probably a little bit of the men's Allsvenskan as well. So we'll see. I don't know. We'll see where I end up in Europe fully. I might also go I play paddle or padel. In English we seem to have not settled on what we're saying, but it's like less lame pickleball.
So cool.
And yeah, it's great. I love it. It's super fun. All the satisfaction of tennis, half the running. So that's good. I may go to a paddle camp while I'm there. I'm like trying to get my coach here. I'm like, can I get up to the intermediate level by May? And he's like, I don't know. And I'm like, okay, well, we're gonna find out because this camp's for intermediates. So
here we go.
Who knows?
Amazing. Awesome. That's so awesome. What do you have like tips wise when it comes to juggling like your full blown career as a lawyer and content creation? Like, how do you do both? And, what do you suggest for others who are kind of like exploring those two things?
It's harder than I thought it would be in some ways. Like, I'm fortunate enough I work for myself. So like the boss is kind of chill. So that's always a good thing. But it's time blocking. I really have to time block and try to be diligent about it. And like, it's hard because like you can open the app and you want to engage with everybody, and I can sit there and like pop off videos and comment back and just like talk to people. I can do it for hours. I can sit here. But I have to do the lawyer work. So I try really hard to like, block off if I know it's a bad like day where it's going to be just like heavy content. I like block it as a heavy content day, and I try really hard to do that. But I can't really tell a court like I actually can't do a trial that day because Arsenal and Chelsea play at noon, and I have to do a live pregame, and like I can't do that, right? So I just have tried to like be transparent with my community about it. Like I think most people know at this point, like I may go to trial, and if I go to trial, I'll put a little note up and just let you know I'm alive. I'm just working. But yeah, time on the day to day, it's like I give myself, I always joke that I'm like a lawyer by day and a TikToker by early morning. So I just get up early and I do it all then, to the extent that I can, and just give myself like, okay, here's an hour where I can check in on stuff. And obviously, like sometimes something breaks, like with the Sam Kerr stuff the other week. Like I see it, I'm literally like in a Nordstrom on an escalator, and I like kept going up to the wrong floor. I'm like getting lost in this Nordstrom trying to figure out what's going on. And then I went to boxing class, and then I was like, oh shoot, I guess I gotta like deal with this. This seems to be real. We have to talk about it now. And I'm like visibly look winded as so that was probably not the most helpful advice, but time blocking I think like in theory would be really good.
That makes sense. Well, we're coming up on the end of our time with you, Casey, and we don't want to take any more of it, but I feel like we could continue to pick your brain on everything forever if we had the chance, to be honest. So hopefully you'll join us on Boots again sometime soon, especially, to get your hot takes, to see kind of like other things about your background. Thank you, Boots listeners, for joining us with Casey as we were in awe of our special celebrity guest today. It really was truly a pleasure for us. I've been looking forward to this for weeks, so thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It was awesome being here, and I'm happy to come just talk your ears off anytime you want.
Yes, great news.
Thank you so much, Casey.
Yeah, thank you.
Nice job, Trista.
I know, Trista, you're like a pro. Like, this should be your real job. How do we get Trista paid?
Yeah, seriously.
I'm so sorry. I felt like I was like controlling those questions.
No,
like,
you were fine. You were really great. You kept it going.
They were great questions. They were awesome. You crushed that.
I had a lot of questions. It's like I'm just gonna keep asking them.
You framed them perfectly too. Like, nice job.
Yeah, the transitions were good. I liked it.
Transition queen up in here.
Yeah. I'm just back into my normal life again, just like transitioning back to normal life. I'm still on the beach.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. You got to see Rebel. Well, also, congratulations to Billy. Yeah.
Congratulations to Billy.
Yeah.
Yes. They are so in love. It was really nice. It was like my favorite wedding ever. When you go to a wedding, you're just like, oh, these people really love each other. It was nice. And Nick's family was very nice too. So it was all nice. And I had a blast with some of my friends. So we brought the Scottish Kaylee to the Australia wedding.
I love it.
That is so awesome. That's amazing. I love that too. Like, when you get to see your friends just flourish with people who are great for them, and you can watch them grow together. It's one of the most beautiful things ever. It really is. Like I could cry just thinking about it right now.
Yeah. Exactly. He was like, they came down the aisle to that Schitt's Creek song, Simply the Best. Right?
Yeah.
So then I was just like, oh my God, like I'm going to cry. And then I was like, oh, I have to get it together because I've got to do reading. And I was like, God damn you. But like, the funny thing was that song is a Tina Turner song, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's actually like the Rangers song, Rangers Football Club. That's their song, like Simply the Best, Tina Turner. And Billy's not into football at all, but he does listen to us because he loves us.
Yeah.
And his dad and his brothers support Celtic, who are the biggest rivals with Rangers, and they were not pleased about that song. And I was like, no, this is like it's not got anything to do with the football. I was like, this is like in Schitt's Creek, having to explain it, because they were like, did he do this on purpose? It's not football related.
Yeah. That is so funny. Oh my God.
Because it's a big moment in Schitt's Creek, right? Like,
oh yeah.
So, yeah, it was kind of funny.
That's really cute. That's also hilarious.
All right. Well, that does it for today's episode. First and foremost, thank you for Casey to come on and talk about women's soccer with us, talk about her journey to loving the sport, as well as all of our hot takes on CONCACAF to the Olympics to even NWSL stuff. So super, super big thank you to Casey. Be sure to check her out. She's Casey's on the Case on TikTok. And please like and subscribe. Let us know what you thought of this episode. And yeah, have a good day. Bye, y'all.
Bye. Thank you so much.
Thank you.